Imanzi.
This is Radio Imanzi, broadcasting from Kigali. Here is the news in English, brought to you by Fiona Umuganwa. The headlines. President Paul Kagame received today the Chief of Staff of the Qatar Armed Forces. The Minister of State in the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources received today a delegation from Polish Investment and Trade Agency. The Rwanda Investigation Bureau has urged Rwandans to be vigilant in the fight against corruption. The number of new coronavirus cases reported globally dropped by 16%. Now the news in detail. President Paul Kagame received today Lieutenant General Pilot Salem bin Hamad bin Mohammed bin Akil Al Nabate, Chief of Staff of the Qatar Armed Forces, who is in Rwanda for a visit to strengthen bilateral ties, during which the Rwanda Defense Force and Qatar Armed Forces signed a memorandum of understanding on cooperation in defense and security. The Minister of State in the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources, Jean Chrysostom Gabitsinze, received today a delegation from Polish Investment and Trade Agency led by Mr. Krzysztof Drinda, chairman of the agency. They discussed about areas of collaboration in agriculture, investment opportunities, knowledge and technology transfer between Rwanda and Poland. Professor Robert Rugimbana has assumed office as the new Vice-Chancellor of University of Kigali. At a meeting to formally introduce the new Vice-Chancellor to the university's executive organ, the chairman of the Board of Directors, Philibert Africa, expressed optimism in Professor Rugimbana's ability to utilize his experience in leading the university and ensuring the achievement of its strategic goals. As an accomplished academic researcher, Professor Rugimbana's main research interests are in the areas of international consumer psychology, cross-cultural marketing and poverty alleviation, enterprise development and entrepreneurship, international marketing education, corporate social responsibility, as well as diffusion of technologies in the fourth industrial revolution. Rwanda has received 56 million euros to kick off the implementation of priority projects that address the issues raising climate change as well as development. In the agreement signed with the KfW Development Bank of Germany, 30 million euros will be allocated to urban development project Green City and 26 million euros for the implementation of the NDCs through the facility at the Rwanda Green Fund. The main objective is to accelerate private sector-led economic growth and increase productivity, focusing on the promotion of sustainable management of the environment and natural resources to transition Rwanda towards a green economy. The Rwanda Investigation Bureau has urged Rwandans to be vigilant in the fight against corruption, saying that corruption negatively affects the entire society and hinders development. The Rwanda Investigation Bureau spokesperson, Dr. Murangira Thierry, warned that people who solicit accept or receives by any means an illegal benefit for themselves or accepts a promise in order to render or omit a service under their mandate or uses their position to render or omit a service commits an offense by violating people's rights to services and should keep in mind that it's a crime punishable by law. The government of Rwanda has put a lot of effort into fighting corruption as it is a barrier to achieving the desired development goals. Every month, the Rwandan government allocates 21,000 Rwandan francs to pregnant women and parents with children under the age of 2. The mayor of Gicumbi district, Nzabonima Emmanuel, says the money was allocated to address the issue of child malnutrition. However, mothers in Gicumbi district complain that their husbands steal that money to buy alcohol. According to Charles, an employee of the local administrative entities development agency, Loda Rwanda, the authorities should start a sensitization campaign to change behaviors of parents who steal money intended to feed their malnourished children. Genocide survivors living in Rugarama sector, Gatsibo district, have appealed to the authorities to help them in repairing their homes. There are 24 houses in total where survivors of the genocide against the Tutsi have been settled since 1998 in Rugarama sector. And these houses do not appear to have been repaired in the last 24 years. The roofs are leaking and the survivors fear the houses will collapse on them. The head of Ibuka organization, Saimana Janepo, confirmed that these houses are old and in need of repair and advocacy is being done to have them repaired. Ibuka, which means remember, is an umbrella organization of survivors, associations, concerned individuals and other organizations fighting the legacy of the genocide and its effects onto survivors. It aims to contribute to their rehabilitation as well as Rwandan society in general.
Some items of international news on Radio Imanzi.
Kenyan authorities have released 139 Ethiopians who are being held for entering the country illegally. According to Ethiopian ambassador to Kenya, Meles Alem Tekea, the Ethiopians were released from 6 different police cells around the capital Nairobi. The Ethiopians had been held for a period ranging from 1 to 9 months. Mr. Alem said that the prisoners were sent back home after they were released on pardon grant. The Southern Africa Development Community, SADC, said it will support returnees in Cabo Delgado who have fled the province following terror attacks. It is believed that the conflict, which started in October 2017, has displaced over 820,000 people and led to the death of an estimated 3,000 others. Malawi's ambassador to Mozambique, Wizi Moyo, said the community is working to provide humanitarian aid to families who are returning to their areas of origin. The SADC's attention remains focused on maintaining public order and tranquility and on combating the armed group that continues to terrorize the population. The SADC ambassadors and high commissioners have started a 3-day visit to the province of Cabo Delgado. The Rwandan troops have also been involved in fighting terrorists and help maintain peace and security in the province of Cabo Delgado. The United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has predicted that Saharan flooding, heat and drought will increase. Africa's rich area of wildlife and plants will decline, and glaciers on its most iconic mountains will disappear in the coming decades. Although Africa has contributed relatively little to the planet's greenhouse gas emissions, the continent has suffered some of the world's heaviest impacts of climate change, from famine to flooding. On a continent already grappling with high poverty levels of food insecurity, the panel warned that fishermen and farmers will feel the pain of future climate change on their lives and livelihoods. The United Nations report said warming temperatures will weaken Africa's food production system by leading to water scarcity and shorter growing seasons. Yields of olives, sorghum, coffee and tea, and livestock production are expected to decline. The number of new coronavirus cases reported globally dropped by 16% last week, marking a month-long decline in COVID-19 infections, according to figures from the World Health Organization. In its weekly report on the pandemic, the agency also said that deaths fell by 10%, continuing a drop in fatalities first seen last week. World Health Organization said there are more than 10 million new cases and about 60,000 deaths globally. The Western Pacific was the only region where COVID-19 increased, with about a third more infections than the previous week. Deaths rose by 22% in the Western Pacific and about 4% in the Middle East, while declining everywhere else. The reports of discrimination in Ukraine have caused uproar and left a bitter taste in Africa. African envoys spoke out strongly at the mistreatment of African nationals trying to flee Ukraine during a special session of the United Nations General Assembly. African nationals, mostly students, have accused Ukrainian security forces of racially profiling them and of stopping them from getting on trains. South Africa's ambassador to the United Nations, Matu Joyini, said South Africa endorses the statement issued by the African Union Commission expressing concern at the treatment given to African nationals and people of African descent at the borders of Ukraine, some of whom are not allowed to cross and move to safety. She urged the European countries to take steps to resolve this situation, as all people have the right to cross international borders during times of conflict. Over social media, several African students said they had been bypassed to allow Ukrainians and other European nationals to cross the border into Poland first. They said they were made to spend hours and days in freezing temperatures without food or sanitation facilities. Economic news is a regular feature on Radio Imanzi. The Rwanda Stock Exchange market report of today. Today's trading session recorded on the fixed income market a total turnover of 228,485,000 Rwandan francs traded in six deals on, and 200,500 Rwandan francs from 4,000 shares traded in 2 deals on the equities market. Bank of Kigali counter closed at 250 Rwandan francs. The trading session recorded a total turnover of 25,000 Rwandan francs from 100 shares traded in 1 deal. I&M Bank counter closed at 45 Rwandan francs. The trading session recorded a total turnover of 175,500 Rwandan francs and 3,900 shares traded in 1 deal. M10 Rwanda closed the counter at 180 Rwandan francs. Bralirwa closed the counter at 125 Rwandan francs. Simerwa closed the counter at 120 Rwandan francs. Equity Bank at 440 Rwandan francs, Kenya Commercial Bank at 370 Rwandan francs, National Media Group at 1,200 Rwandan francs, Utrecht Supermarket at 104 Rwandan francs, and RH Buffalo closed the counter at 526 Rwandan francs as the market closed. The currency market review. The Kenyan shilling buying price was 8.8 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 9 Rwandan francs. Tanzanian shilling buying price was 0.43 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 0.44 Rwandan francs. Ugandan shilling buying price was 0.28 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 0.29 Rwandan francs. Burundian franc buying price was 0.5 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 0.51 Rwandan francs. The US dollar buying price was 1,005 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 1,025 Rwandan francs. The British pound buying price was 1,317 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 1,364 Rwandan francs. The euro buying price was 1,137 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 1,140 Rwandan francs. Today's weather forecast from the Rwanda Meteorology Department. From 6 in the evening to midnight, there will be thunderstorms in Nyaruguru and Nyamagabe districts, Western Province and Kigali City, while the rest of the country is expected to be mostly cloudy. The expected average wind speed is of between 4 meters per second and 5 meters per second. From midnight tonight until 6 in the morning, it is going to be cloudy throughout the country and an average wind speed of between 4 meters per second and 5 meters per second is expected. The minimum temperature to be is 10 degrees Celsius tomorrow morning in Nyabihu district. With that, we come to the end of tonight's edition.